Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to go over what I think the top three Nintendo games of 2023 were. This year was an insane year for Nintendo and one of the best years for the Switch. So, first, I just want to talk about a few honorable mentions before we get into the list. I have unfortunately not been able to finish as many games as I would have liked to this year, but I have managed to play a ton of games. So, let's talk about a few that didn't make the cut. One of the first games that came out this year was Fire Emblem Engage, and this game was a really mixed bag for me that I was super excited to play when it came out. Engage really pushes the series forward in terms of presentation, so let's tackle that first. I personally love Three Houses, but that game often looks extremely ugly. However, Engage really leveled up Fire Emblem in this aspect. The maps where the battles take place look better than they ever have. And on top of that, the characters look really, really good too. Also, the maps and battles in general were better in this game. The maps offered a wider variety of gameplay experiences versus Three Houses, where they often felt the same. And the emblem rings, that whole mechanic added some extra depth that allowed for very, very cool and kind of wildly good plays. My issue with Engage and why I consider it a mixed bag is that I found the stories and characters to be genuinely so bad and uninteresting that I couldn't finish the game. I just dropped it halfway through, and I just think the characters and the story itself is a real detriment to the game, and I think it might be better if you just skip the cutscenes. So, Fire Emblem Engage is the first honorable mention. Next up, we have two games, and I have lumped these games together because I feel very similarly about them both. These two games are Mario Wonder and Metroid Prime Remastered. These games are not a mixed bag like Fire Emblem Engage. They are genuinely quite amazing and have very few and minimal problems with them. Mario Wonder is one of the most inventive platformers I've ever played, but the badges just did not get into the weeds as much as I would have liked. They aren't interesting enough for me. They don't change the gameplay enough for me. And it holds it back compared to other games because of that. This doesn't mean I think Wonder is bad. It just didn't do enough to put it into the top three for me. Now, Metroid Prime Remastered is a game that I really love. Obviously, it's one of the best looking games on Switch, and I've loved every Metroidvania game I've ever played. Its areas are really distinct and interesting from each other, which makes exploring super fun, and untangling the web that the game is as you explore is super fun. However, as someone who played the game for the very first time this year, I think it shows its age in a few ways. I think the combat leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think it's very good. And I think the puzzle rooms with the morph ball they just aren't very fun. So yeah, that's my opinion on Metroid Prime Remastered. So with that, let's go ahead and move into the top three. Number three is Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 is just straight good. It doesn't waste time with frustrating mechanics or frustratingly bad story. It just puts you into the gameplay and lets the loop do the work. So let's talk about that gameplay. This game is an exploration strategy game, which is just perfect for me. Nintendo put out a lot of great games this year, and I think a lot of which games you prefer, um, or a lot of which games you like more, is just going to come down to what your preferences are. If you like exploration and strategy, you'll probably like this game, but if you don't, you may not, and that applies to the earlier games too. So, yeah, Pikmin 4, just a really nice, fun game. The loop of exploring and using your strategy to explore in the most efficient way possible to get items and more Pikmin, which will then allow you to explore and get even more items and more upgrades, even better, even more efficiently, is just so good. The different areas are also really unique and just make the gameplay even more fun. And on top of all of that, the game is really pretty. The above ground areas are great. The caves and dungeons provide nice challenges and puzzles. And yeah, I don't have much more to say about Pikmin 4. It's just a damn good game. So let's go ahead and move into the next one.
Why? Tell me why! Is this really what you want? Albus!
Number 2 is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. Yes, this is technically a DLC, but as Torna was to Xenoblade 2, Future Redeemed is essentially a full-on expansion game. So I'll be counting it. And man, this game, it was probably the most polished and positive that I felt about a game this year. Of course, this ties together the stories of the several Xenoblade games. It also has a very interesting story to tell on its own. I love the new protagonist in Matthew and the other new characters, but the returning characters, of course, were also amazing. With some of the hypest and coolest moments in the series, the story upheld the high standard that the rest of the series set. The environments were insanely cool, and the music was a step up from the music in base Xenoblade 3. Bringing back areas from earlier games and hearing music brought back too was amazing, and the Xenoblade 3 combat system is just amazing to me, and I love the combat in Future Redeemed. There's a little bit less variety in the combat since characters are locked into classes, but I think it fits the shorter format of this expansion. The combat is really tight, and almost all the classes or characters are really fun. I will say, I wish that there was a little bit more balance between the characters and the classes, because Rex and Double Spinning Edge, it sure is something. But yeah, I'm not sure I could have imagined a better DLC to one of my favorite games of all time than what we got with Future Redeemed. But with that, let's move into the number 1 game of the year for Nintendo. And of course, number 1 is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Everybody has their opinion on this game, but to me, it was the best game Nintendo put out this year. It had its problems. Trust me, I have many problems with this game, but I just can't say that Nintendo had a game this year that I liked more than Tears of the Kingdom. The way the exploration of the world works is just so amazing. I loved this world in Breath of the Wild, and coming back to it and rediscovering things was just amazing. Ultra Hand and Ascend fundamentally changed how the exploration works, and Fuse made the combat so much better. So all of these abilities change how Link can interact with the world. The changes made to the world were also generally good in my opinion. Adding the caves to the surface were very fun, and the Sky Islands were just incredibly serene and fun as well. I'm a little bit more sour on the depths compared to most people, I think, but they could be fun. And additionally, the just sheer amount of content that the depths add is admirable in its own right. So yeah, the new abilities and additions to the world are just generally awesome. I loved returning to the world in a new way. But let's talk about some other things with this game. The story was generally a mixed bag in my opinion, coupled with bizarre things missing from the world that were just quite perplexing. Sheik attack. However, there are moments of the story that are generally really good, and I love the opening and the ending. I think I'll make a larger video discussing the story of Tears of the Kingdom, but I can't properly convey it all in this short of a time. In short, the story had good moments, but I'm overall mixed. The dungeons were also something that I thought, despite being improved from Breath of the Wild, were just not up to the series standard. They, like the story, had some really cool moments in the build up to the dungeons, especially the dungeon in the Rito area, and the boss fights were really good too, but they just were overall lacking in my opinion. Overall, this game just had some really high highs and was consistently super fun when you weren't at those really high highs. The serenity of exploring the world and the grandness of the campaign were just awesome, and enough for me to overlook the issues that I have with the game and to put it at the #1 spot. So, thank you all for watching, and let me know your opinions in the comments, and subscribe for more videos like this. See ya.